Hello, early today. Happy Friday, everyone. Yeah, so before playing a game today, I wanted to give myself a chance to look through the stats that I put together yesterday. I didn't actually look through them very thoroughly. I was more just excited to run the scripts that I had and make sure everything seemed to work, and then post them up because it's not the shortest process, and the sooner I go from raw data to posting stuff, the better. Hello, KLJ. Hello, anyone else lurking or getting a notification earlier than expected. I'm expecting most people to be to have to go back for the VOD on this one, but hopefully some of you are here in time and we can talk through some of the fun stuff together. So yeah, I'm not gonna share this file just in case, but anyone can go from the thread that I posted on BGA, which I will share here. Anyone can go from here and paste the stuff into Excel and reformat it a bit and get the same thing I have here. Hey, random NPC. How are you? But here's the main list, if you will, where we have 4-player games, no additional spaces, minimum ELO at the table 200 or more. What was I going to do here? Good, awesome. Does this need to be bigger or not? It does. But yeah, so I guess first off, I can share some of the stuff that I found interesting while quickly, or as quickly as I could accurately, put this data together. This time I decided to not filter out the no ban list games, except for the high-rated players versus lower-rated players comparisons. Otherwise, I kept the ban list settings as both. And that actually made things pretty enlightening. It seems like, approximately 1 out of 12 games, roughly. I could figure out, I could have ran this, but I didn't. But just based on how often a card was dealt, it looks like no ban list games make up about 1 in 12 4-player games with no additional spaces. But when we go to additional spaces, it seems like 2 out of 3 games have no ban list on. If we look at just the pure number of deals, we see that, these cards that are on the ban list get played with 2/3 of the time in additional spaces games. What's APR? Yeah, average played round, which is something the developers were able to encode here, which is really cool. And I mean, it's not really earth-shattering, but it just gives a bit more color into the picture. Let's see, what else in large scale did I notice? Yeah, the big ban list option discrepancy. And this actually makes sense. Some playgroups for Revised Agricola take the stance that because there's really stupid cards in a no additional action spaces sense, such as Caravan, playing with the additional action space actually makes Caravan not overpowered necessarily. And that feeling actually becomes true which is really cool to see in the additional action space games. Um, Stuff that, you know, is probably, like, there's some stuff that's probably bannable, but it's not, like, completely overpowered and stupid to have stuff like Caravan when growth is what it is in additional spaces. So yeah, Thrall, I guess that's never been super clear from me. I tried to improve the description of it this time, but when I talk about the data set of 500 plus players, it's still the data set of games where the minimum ELO was 200, but isolating only the 500 level players out of that. So if we go to just like the overall performance stats of those players here, we see that they are ranking between like 1.8 on average final rank, and they're not really losing much or getting third much. They're really doing quite well. ELO per play, kind of like win shares. I hesitate to claim I understand win share statistics very well, but it's literally your ELO change, or the sum of all ELO changes by players who played that card, divided by how many times it was played. So I guess we can just take a quick example for Childless here. ELO per play is 4.7, so we can just do M5 times I5, the number of plays, and we can see that 4,888 ELO is the net ELO plus or minus across those 1,040 plays of Childless. Hey, Spade, yeah, I indeed got to post all the stats that I had working in the background during yesterday's stream. Yeah, and it was, I was pretty tired after, and basically didn't do much analysis myself, and now is when I'm really going to start looking at this harder. So yeah, the thread link should be above in the chat or easily findable in the BGA forums. And I'm not going to recreate, or I'm not going to share this spreadsheet because it's just super easily recreatable by anyone. And this probably has some private hidden stuff somewhere that I'm not realizing is, yeah, I don't know. I'm just playing it safe on that. So the biggest outlier by far that I cannot claim to understand let me zoom in, because I'm looking at the screen display and it's not. Econ Sean! Yo! With the 24 months! Pog indeed. Thanks so much for 2 years of support, Econ Sean. It means a lot, and very cool. But yeah, why is Pet Lover good? What's going on here? This is earth-shattering to me. I have such disrespect for Pet Lover, but across this big of a sample, and it doesn't get worse when you look at 500 plus players. I did look at that, but seriously, why is this not bolded here? I'm inconsistent. It's Pet Broker. Like, it's the 32nd best card in 500 plus players at these tables too. What is going on? Why is Pet Lover good? This is something I do not understand. Okay, this is me, who runs the Agricola stats, a lot of how I'm good is by understanding Agricola stats, or I use that as part of the basis for my understanding of the game. I'm rated pretty highly, to, you know, as maybe an understatement. I've played thousands of games. And Pet Lover. Freaking Pet Lover. Is ranked in the 20s out of 500 cards? In a sample of almost 9,000 games. Like, all I can do is look at this in shock. All I can do is look at this in shock. Yeah, so chat started up here a little. Paviour's higher than you think? Paviour good. I mean, I think I've been alluding to this a little recently about how good Paviour is. But here's some proof. It's probably higher than I would have guessed. But yeah, it's right up there with Informant. Recreational Carpenter, pretty high too, yeah. Pet Lover, well, so the thing is, in a graph of my estimation versus actual power, Pet Lover is a super clear outlier. And there are very few outliers at this level, or at this extremity, of, like, my understanding of how good a card is. Like, this is just insane to me. Food and Grain, I mean, look, I like Food and Grain. Big family games, but in 3-room games it seems mediocre. Yeah, I agree. Excuse me. Better players can navigate a weird dynamic. That could be part of it, KLJ. DVLOT, thanks so much for the sub. Oh no, that's Marushka with the gifted. Sorry, I needed to scroll down. I was catching up a chat. Marushka, thanks so much for the gifted. And congrats DVLOT on receiving it. Marushka, you are the champ. Otherwise known as exclamation God Marushka. Hello Heroic Logic. Pet Lover greater than Clay Supports confirmed. Pet Lover greater than Carpenter's Parlor and Cultivator and Mason confirmed. And Wood Carrier. And Rammed Clay. Okay, this is my reaction. This is my reaction to Pet Lover. It doesn't belong next to Loom. Somebody just, like, wake me up from this stream, because this is not real. Okay. Yeah, Pet Lover greater than Mason. Pitchfork with an animal. Right, yes, Pitchfork with an animal, top 30 card. Pretty hard to struggle with food if you have Pet Lover out, that's true. Marushka, you cannot bear this chat. What's with that? Education bonus? Ed bonus. Okay, you know where Ed bonus is crazy? This is just... Okay, the 500 plus list, Forest Reviewer. At tables where the weakest player is 200 or more, Forest Reviewer is the top rated card by 500 plus ELO players. And Education bonus is number 2. This is crazy. And this sample is still pretty good size. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good size. Ed bonus higher than Teacher's Desk and Childless. 2 cards that a couple people have actually asked to ban. And these are ahead of them? Are you serious? like, so much of these lists make sense just fine, which gives so much credence to the fact that the results here are not some kind of data error. Like, the data and running it through my script, I think that all went cleanly and legit. Because so much of this looks very reasonable. And then there's freaking Forest Reviewer topping the 500 list with Education bonus right behind. Then there's Pet Lover being a top 30 card. Like, did I start my stream early to rant about Pet Lover for 30 minutes? It's possible. Skillful Renovator. Skillful Renovator's been slept on quite a long time. I actually don't remember the average draft pick of Skillful in the first set. Whoops. Of stats that I did half a year ago, or a bit longer than that. But Skillful was slept on here really badly. Average draft pick 3.87, power roughly 4, 26th best. So to see it here at 18th, average draft pick has caught up by like almost a full position to how good it is, but I mean, it's still undervalued. When was the last time I tried playing with Pet Lover? Maybe I should try forcing it. I know, I might. Where Rent Keeper would be on the list, Marushka. Number 1. Number 1, in fact. Number 1 in our hearts. Could Pet Lover possibly combo with something? Like, not anything amazing. Hey, Rainier. The other big news is that Swing Plow dropped a lot. Relatively. Yeah, Swing Plow not showing up as tremendously OP. I guess one thing I didn't directly calculate is win rate. Because that can give a little more color on... Okay, so to break it down a little more. Power can be thought of in a couple different ways, but one way you can think about power is it's a combination of how often a card gets played and how often a card helps you win when it's played. The other way to think about it is by turning those 2 division problems into 1 division problem, where power is just like the ratio of how often the card shows up on a winning tableau at the end of all games. But yeah, that first one I'm saying, if you try to break it down into those 2 issues, some cards have higher power because they are very, very playable and win a good amount. And some cards have high power because they are pretty playable, but win even more when they are played. I think Swing Plow is probably closer to the former. And Swing Plow could be a victim of some people misplaying it, as in they don't properly account for worse fence tempo when playing 3 occupations and then spending 3 wood. Forest Reviewer, great room tempo early. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, maybe I was slightly sleeping on Forest Reviewer. Like, I've never thought Forest Reviewer was bad. I've always thought it was pretty good, but I don't think I would have ever put it this highly. Pet Lover Rant enabled? Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm so behind on chat here. Braggart's still a good card. Yeah, as Rainier's saying here, if I skip over chat a little, you like how the ban cards do mostly show up at the top of these lists, reinforcing the reason for their bans. Absolutely. Absolutely. And keep in mind, like, in games with Braggart, it's also possible that Begging Student or Wirt Certificate was dealt. And, like, these cards are still performing great. Let's see, what's the lowest power card that is banned? Maybe Little Peasant? Maybe Crosscut Wood? Things that were banned for annoyance? I could do this smarter. Yeah, we have some of the bans for annoyance that don't come out super high power, but I think we're all happy to see these gone. Annoyance is one of the reasons we can ban them. What in the world are you seeing here, Dr. Bois? Hello? I mean, there's some crazy stuff here. Most of it's not surprising to me. There's just a couple just crazy things here, though. What's the best way to identify undervalued cards from these stats? One of the easiest ways would be to graph power versus average draft position. And the ones with high power and higher average draft position than the things around it are undervalued. Because theoretically, the higher power a card is, the earlier it should be taken in a draft. So if something has high power but also a relatively late draft position, it could be that only the better players are biased to taking the card earlier than the weaker players, and that can cause some of the power to change. So in the long run, I would expect cards like, I guess, Skillful Renovator and Full Farmer are really easy examples here. But these cards are probably not quite this high power in truth if they were drafted properly. Like, their true strength might be closer to, I don't know, I'm just throwing out a number here, but 3.7 if their average draft pick moved to a more appropriate number near 2. Well, I mean, Dr. Bois, that is a legit subset of the data here. This is the data for 500 plus players only, isolated. Alright, how much farther do I need to go back in chat still? Dr. Bois definitely thinks Swing Plow can be misplayed often enough to push its overall power down. Okay. Yeah, that's probably my stance a little. Braggart's slower than Childless, and Childless isn't banned, so yeah, the couple issues here. First of all, the banned cards do have a smaller sample size here. Second of all, these banned cards are in the context of possibly being played with other banned cards. So if we just take one of these banned cards and put it back into the overall pool, it'll never have to face off against the other banned cards. And I'm not saying that's a big effect, but it is a small one. And then the third part is that it is possible that the line between what should be banned and shouldn't be banned is getting kind of blurry. It just kind of feels wrong to ban Childless because it says, here's a crop and a food. Oh yeah, but you can never grow unless you want these rewards to stop. And yes, like, part of the explanation of why Childless is good is that, like, a crop and a food action, or even if you want to consider it a crop and 2 food if you factor in not having to feed a person, like, is a fine action to have for free. It's a fine line to walk. Like, I would much sooner be happy to ban Lover than Childless. But obviously the numbers don't really back me up on that. Yeah, and Rainier has a point too. Like, it is more of a rough guide. Though I have to say, I don't think a power analysis has ever, and I mean literally ever, in the history of Agricola, had this many deals in a dataset for the cards. Like, when have we ever had a sample size of over 1,000 deals for all cards? This is a very large dataset relative to anything I'm familiar with in Agricola history. It's somewhere between 2 and 3 times bigger than the last one I did in November. And I'm just going to look right now on the Play Agricola forums to check what those sample sizes were. In Agricola's heyday on Play Agricola. Let's take a look. Because I don't think... Okay, half a year. This is 2015. Yeah, this is like 250 plays a year. The half year before that, it was closer to 400 plays a year. I guess this isn't the perfect... Alright, we'll just look through some of these. 2013, 14, 15, 17. Okay, so this is a very high rate of play. This is 3 months. Wait. March, April, May, June. Okay, 4 months. 330 plays. So this is almost 1,000 a year. Man, Play Agricola was active. But the data set's only about 400. Again, similar thing. This is a longer date range, though. Yeah, you can see the... Well, I guess this couple years later is closer to 800 per year. And here's a full year with 300. Yeah, but I think my point stands that this is a lot for a single analysis. So, Rainier, I mean, I kind of agree that we care about position more, but the sample size makes our confidence intervals a lot tighter, right? Do I have any easy tip for importing this from BGA into Sheets? You're losing the line breaks. So there's a difference when you copy something between paste and paste values. If one doesn't work, the other might work, but maybe not. We should be more aggressive to ban cards with higher average played round. Do you mean average draft pick or average played round? Because average played round really illustrates the play at the end of the game for bonuses. You mean average played round? Interesting, okay. I mean, at some level I agree, because part of the argument for why Braggart is too strong is because you can play it at the end for a lot of stuff, a lot of value. Braggart provides more ELO per play. It sure does. Oh, and what I really like seeing here, even though, of course, it's a small sample, part of the argument for why the community decided to ban Big Country was that it's, like, too easy to get second. This super confirms that, which is really cool to see. It's very interesting that Trade Teacher doesn't have a similar effect. But Braggart does, Work Certificate does. Begging Student, interestingly, doesn't necessarily have that. And Begging Student probably does get played most of the time, yeah. These stats don't have seating breakdowns, but that's a thing I could try to add in, Ace Spade. I guess the most difficult part of programming that would be... This is already like a two-dimensional view on things, right? If we want to add in seating order, we have to make a two-dimensional display of like three-dimensional data analysis, which is possible. We can just like have 4 rows per card, but it would look a little more annoying. But yes, I could analyze that. That's a good idea. I mean, I'm open to ideas in general of more ways to slice this up when I have some more time. I don't remember if I ever wrote down notes about this. I do have a list of this. And the first two items on the list are weighted power and elo per play, which I've done. That's great. Stats, but for higher threshold than 200, I've also done now. Whoa. I'll need to reread this note I have about finding variants of certain cards being OP in high variance ways. Maybe connected to a little peasant breakdown. Okay, what is this? Seat position as extra dimension for cards. Okay. Yeah, Rainier, I agree. We do care about seconds and thirds. And... yeah. Hello, CW! You would take the stats of cards with low play counts with a grain of salt? Yes. Yeah, I did mention that. The smaller sample size for these does... yeah. What card loses the most elo? Yeah, Perennial Rye. On 64 plays, so pretty low play count. The one that loses the most elo with a lot of plays? Forest Trader. I think this is a great way to sort cards that are traps. High play count, negative elo per play. If playing... oh, that's a good point too, Ace Spade. Just have entire lists, like one list per seat position. That's good. That's a really good idea of how to organize it. Thanks. That actually sounds very interesting to do. I might do that this afternoon or over the weekend. Private teacher here too? You refuse? The card is good? Well, Rainier, I'm not saying it's not a good card. The power is saying that. But I think it just shows that it's a trap for so many players. Let's look at how good it is for the top players. Or what the top players are trapped by. Awkward. Private teacher and forest trader still here. They're both higher power, but yeah, forest trader not showing up as good, Rainier. You might have to take a second look. Or put it into a category of it's good if you have a lot of food. But that's a very large category, right? Collector? Yeah, we can talk about Collector. It does do quite well in the hands of strong players. So that's good to see. Like, it's right in line with Tiller and Cesspit and Loom and, like, the top tier. Feed Pellets, by the way, Feed Pellets is a champ. Feed Pellets average draft pick 4.1, which implies that its true power is probably not a top 30 card. But Feed Pellet's very strong in this set, too. Sorry for jumping around a little. Yeah, Feed Pellets is here in the overall list. Let's stop sleeping on Feed Pellets. I'll try to get myself to stop sleeping on Pet Lover, but my question marks remain. Small animal breeder being a trap you accept? Well, of course. You've been a Feed Pellets truther. The secret's out. The secret's out, Rainier. Yeah, no worries, CW. Weighted Power says instead of giving 1 credit to having it on your winning farm, I'm now giving it 0.6 credits for it being on the winning farm, 0.3 credits for being on the second place farm, and 0.1 credit for being on the third place farm. So it, along with ELO per play, give insight into how often it doesn't just help people win, but get second and third places. The correlation between average... Yes. So if we look at the ELO per play column only, we get some funny results. Like, Cookery Outfitter is the 8th best ELO per play. But it only really gets played when those extra 1 to 4 points could be helpful. And I mean, the top of this list is completely littered with late game bonus point cards. So yeah. But yeah, back to the 500 plus list. Forest Reviewer Education Bonus. Apparently Education Bonus is a bigger surprise for most people. And again, we have to apply an ADP adjustment. Education Bonus, in truth, is probably not the second best card for top players at the average 200 plus table. But it does need to be drafted more aggressively, and is still quite good. Yeah, I guess another thing I might as well point out, even though it doesn't apply to my games too much, is Brewery Pond. Alright, so Brewery Pond we all know very good, right? 500 plus players at the average 200 plus table. It's number 11. This is for the weaker players. I assume it's also pretty good. Where did it go? Yeah, it's also pretty good. Remember, there's 512 cards in these lists. This is additional action spaces. If there were bans, Brewery Pond should be a ban for additional action spaces, but we can't really set that up. And then 3-player games. This is super small sample size, so can ignore it. But and then 2-player games. Yo, what? Two-player games, no additional spaces. And of course the powers are inflated because there's only 2 players instead of 4, so you could just divide all these by 2 to get equivalent values. But what the heck, Brewery Pond in 2-player games? That's ridiculous. The difference between first and second, 1.09. If we go 1.09 below this, 6.82, that would be the 22nd best card. So the difference between first and second is the same as the difference between second and 22nd. And then Brewery Pond topping the with additional spaces 2-player games also. 2 wood taken a lot in the mid to late game. So yeah, so that's actually a good observation, CW. I think wood is being taken at lower numbers more than I've been adapting to, at least. And that shows up in a couple other places too, with Mini Pasture being rated very high for the 500 plus player list. I think I saw Hedgekeeper up here too. Higher than I expected. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I missed it. Eh, 93rd isn't bad. And then overall, 120th. Tumbrel and Junk Room up there for 2-player, yeah. Having surprise food in 2-player, really good. Not surprised about Tumbrel at all. Well, I mean, this is pretty high, but not surprised that it's overall really good. Brook is very good, Hod is very good, Geologist is very good. These don't surprise me. Yeah, Pet Lover, I mean, I don't understand it. I'm really gonna have to improve my play in order to understand the pet lover thing. I'm just gonna highlight this so I can delete my question marks, because the question mark isn't sorting. No, they're not policed at 1. I mean, I've always thought it gave breeding pairs to everyone else, and that wasn't good. I mean, it's definitely the downside, but apparently that doesn't matter? Nearly as much as I thought it would? Oh, I guess you're saying that there's no marginal difference. Because you're not... I guess in the long run you are increasing the number of breeding pair animal actions your opponents are getting, but not by much. And definitely not early. Yeah, so instead of like there being a 70% chance that 2 animals of that type are available next round, you're turning that into 100. And that's something that you can be certain of ahead of time, but your opponents aren't, so you can maybe strategize more around that. These are interesting thoughts to have. Right, I agree with that, Rainier. Yeah, and Ace Spade, that's true too. It could be my playstyle is less friendly to it. Pet Lover excellent for Big House? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have said excellent before. I would have said okay before, but now I have to change my opinion on that. Like, the stats clearly say it's pretty darn good, and my knowledge of the game implies that the pretty darn good is concentrated towards the bigger houses, so... There's that. But yeah, that's more or less what I had to share here. We can spend a few more minutes if anyone else has specific things they want to look at. But otherwise, I'll start going into a game. Tree Guard's good in high elo games, CW. I shouldn't be scrolling to find it. This is very inefficient. Yeah, 150th out of 512. Constable. Oh, Constable's right there. And top 100. Let's get ourselves a pet lover today? Yeah. Unless I have regular lover. I guess the thing we haven't done is look through the low-rated cards and see if I've been trapped by something. And I am going to use the bigger dataset, even though I have a dataset for higher-rated players. I think it's still useful to look at these. Stall holder. Okay, well, I know how to use stall holder. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Lord of the Manor is a little low, CW. It's still in the top third, but it's like barely in the top third if I remember correctly. What's the worst plow help card? Good question. Pellet press is low. I guess I'll be scrolling up and we'll try to find the lowest plow help card. Joiner of the Sea, just bad. Pet lover plus lover good together? I don't think so. But I play lover on 2 rooms a lot. Okay, cooperative plower, yeah. That's probably down here even farther. Yeah, okay. Technically a plow help card. Even 2 food. The Mound. Minstrel! How dare you. Stats. Sequestrator, Growing Farm, Catcher being the last. This is what I've called the worst card in the set, and I feel validated. What else is down here? Early Cattle. Cookery Outfitter. Apparently people are winning with Heart of Stone occasionally. 228 plays. That's a lot more than I expected. Outrider low, Pasture Master low. I guess Pasture Master has a playability problem, same with Stallholder. Yeah, let's check out the win per play on some of these. K over I. Okay, so Stallholder wins 34% of the time when it's played, which is not amazing, but it's, like, not a disaster. Can't believe Bean Counter that low? Yeah. Sequestrator, no. Nutrition Expert, I think, is pretty low. Seducer is... Oh, I guess I didn't even go into the rank comparison for higher and lower yet. This is a list of cards that do better with the better players compared to the weaker players. Seducer is the 8th biggest differential of ranking. Collector up here, not surprising, but I don't know, some of these are kind of odd to see. Like, I definitely would have thought District Manager performed just as well for weaker players. Stockyard, apparently the weaker players aren't as good as using it for early capacity, which is weird. Established Person doesn't surprise me. Yeah, some of these are not surprising and some of them are. Yeah, I know I'm behind on chat here a little. I think you've asked multiple times, Chronican, where's Beanfield? Or I missed something that you asked earlier. Let me find Beanfield. Beanfield, rank 126 out of 512. Pretty mid, or barely above average power. %. It's not amazing. Hardware store is super high. It's by far the highest day laborer. Maybe an exponentially bigger stats project. Is there a way to see win percentage of 2-card combos? That is an exponentially bigger stats project. Well, maybe not exactly exponential, but it's something like that. Yeah, what's 512 choose 2? No. Okay, I don't know the cheats function for choosing. Awkward. Is permute in here? No. Yeah, okay. So where's choose? I'm trying to find choose as opposed to permute. NCR? NCR isn't here. I'll get to the Steam Plow versus Forest Plow for the final showdown. CW, you're just telling me the formula for it. That's probably true. Yeah, that sounds right. I'm not gonna confirm or deny that, but I'll believe it for now. Yeah, so instead of being 512 rows, it's going to be 12,500 rows, very roughly. Let me get to Dr. Bois' comment, and then we'll do the final showdown. Tell you why Stockyard has issues, because Scrubs, like, you pick it, and then you mentally declare your capacity is solved, but then they Right, it gives you, like, capacity for the first breeding pair, but you can't forget to fence. Yeah, and specifically we're trying to, like, count the number of 2-card pairs, but I forgot the spreadsheet function for choosing, which would be NCR on a calculator. I mean, I have a calculator right here, but, you know, I'm not going to open it. Okay. The Plow Showdown. We'll do both in the overall list and the 500 plus list. Forest Plow, 82nd. Steam Plow, 1/12 is pretty good. Forest Plow, 65th. Steam Plow, 91st. Combin. That sounds right. No, it's not choose. Yeah. It used to be. That would explain my confusion. So, finding all 2-card combos from this would make it from 512 rows into this many rows. And I don't like the idea of doing that many rows, unfortunately. Is that right? Yeah, I mean, if I put them in the wrong order, it should just not work, right? And this is bigger than... Hold on, now I'm checking. No, that is right, okay. Steam Plow is just less popular due to a smear campaign. I'm not buying that one. Alright, redemption for CW. Can we get a wins per play? Okay, well this is like clearly almost 50%. But power does encapsulate playability, and I'm going to claim that maybe... Well, no, this is also close to... This is better. This is really close to 50%. Yeah, I think this is you losing, CW. Losing by 0.5%. Even on your backup plan. Whoops. Is that Harpooner almost cracking the top 100? Indeed it is. And I guess we should remind ourselves, this is the 500 plus players only, so naturally the win percentages of everything are boosted. You get to draft it 1 round later, though. Oh, Ace Spade, on the contrary. If the draft pick is later than the things surrounding it, that means its true power is weaker. Negative elo per play on Harpooner here. Alright, last round of last questions here before I go into the lobby. But this is fun. Definitely glad to be exploring this with y'all. Beer table. Still tough to play for the good players, apparently. Oven Boy, that's a good one. Bottom third in the 500 plus list. Roughly the same, but it's not a complete sham, or it's not a complete flop of a card. And not all of these are going to be hand trucks. Rip Potato Planter, another CW favorite. The highest elos per play, Schmog, tend to be the late game bonus point cards. Patron, Smoo is a patron fan. Top 100, barely, in the overall. And, ooh, this is quite good. 43rd in the 500 plus list. I've never gotten off the patron train. Alright, let's take a quick look at the elo per plays. We'll only do it on the 500 list here, because reasons. Small sample size, Paymaster has the highest elo per play. Maybe this is too small sample to look at. Okay, hold on. So yeah, this list includes bans, but it's the late game bonus point stuff. And then the really good stuff. And then the weakest by this metric are bad cards and trap cards. Very good elo per play for Oven Boy, so people can so that means people can identify when it's going to be good or not. That's cool to see. Storks. Let's resort that. Storks is, let's see, 512 total means this is a bit above average. And then 122 is relatively higher in the 500 plus list. So Ace Spade power takes into account both playability and how good it is when played. Porter looks sneaky good. Porter does turn out quite good in these stats. In both lists, I want to say. 48th here. 63rd here out of 512 in both. Or 500 something in both. Look forward to losing many hours talking about these. Yeah, it would be cool. Alright, I think the Stats Talk show is over. Thanks for all your questions and additional curiosity. Feel free to post in the thread. But yeah, I thought I would start a game around the hour mark, or the normal start time, but we kept talking, which is cool. The spreadsheet's not available. I'm not going to make this one public, but it should be fairly easy to copy the data from the BGA thread into a spreadsheet of your own, and I'll link that again. We'll do machine learning analysis someday. I mean, we could make a regression plot of power versus ADP, and that's technically machine learning done. Difficult to cop. Well, it should be tab delimited. And then... Alright, I guess I can show one trick here. Alright, this line is more or less copied from something. Maybe will seem similar. The sheets function I would use for this is split. So let's say A51 by at least 2 spaces, and you put false here. Or paste as values might work, but this is another possible method you could use. AI is just regression with marketing, so true. I mean, other machine learning algorithms too, but... Raw game logs? No, those are definitely not available. I actually don't have the game logs either, funny enough. The way that the cards played round is collected is super cleverly done by the developers, and it actually ends up showing in the endgame stats. So, I don't know if it's visible, I think it is, but if you go to the endgame stats and you look at like card played ID, that ID actually does a lot of work. to give a brief idea of how that goes. So yeah, what I am authorized to do is collect overall statistics at a community-wide level, or a large subset of the community-wide level. And I think I'm actually obligated to notify BGA if there's something like a full game log. And then not analyze it. Forest reviewer, right. But yeah, so I encourage everyone to take some more looks at the stats, enjoy what you see. Feel free to ask questions, but I make no promises about actually answering them. And do it all in the BGA thread, more so than my chat. Value paste didn't work, but split did. Okay. Forest reviewer is the one that throws reed when 2 of the wood moves are taken. Challenge for today, just draft based on the 500 plus stats list. You want me to draft like RageNet and Overhunter? I'm just naming 2 high-rated players who I know have a lot of games and therefore bias the data a little more than I might. But again, their games are surely just a small fraction. I feel obligated to say now that does not imply anything about how much they are featured in the data. Probably not a big percentage. I don't actually know. I don't know why sometimes the tooltips get bugged, but... What do the stats say is the most fun card? Great question, CW. I forgot to include the fun column. My bad. Let me rerun all my stats with the fun column included. Number 26. What could Gray possibly be referring to? Fun equals overdrafted versus power. And while I'm waiting, we can run a few silly stats like that, made up stuff. Let's see. So this is Bois fun and Thrall fun. So high pick per play rate but low win rate. So we can go drafted more than, or numerator, denominator, just K, I guess. And then Thrall Fun is overdrafted versus power. Okay. So then more fun would be higher plays per power. And then CW Fun. This is ELO lost versus ADP. So the more ELO you lose, the better. And the earlier you pick it, the better. So we do negative M divided by E. This is kind of fun, actually. Speaking of fun. Let me just reset the queue so I don't miss out on it. You like CWs? Alright. Freezing? Okay, stop freezing. Thank you. Dr. Bois' fun stat. Z to A. Sugar maker, sequestrator, cooperative flower, even two food. I guess by putting ELO in the denominator for these two, these are going to have very high fun stats. Gonzo's fun. The formula is if it's Canal Boatman, true. Okay, so I guess we might want to work on these first two columns because they're too sensitive to power being low. But I guess the first card with power above 2 in Bois Fun is Sheepkeeper, followed by Hollow Warden, Soldier, and Dwelling Plan. I like those. Canal Boatman 23rd in Dr. Bois. Okay, let's check out Thralls. Again, it's going to be influenced by power significantly, the low powers. So if, maybe even more. But if we skip over the... Oh, maybe this is like way too... I think these two columns are probably a little too correlated. Might need to workshop this one a little more too. Alright, CW Fun. I gotta say, this is a pretty good list. Bean Counter, the 46th most fun card. You like CWs, but filtered by average played round less than 7. Can't have fun if you don't play it early. Great point. Social benefits, very fun. Yeah, Ace Spade's comment is, I'm not gonna read it, but y'all are welcome to read it and maybe think to yourself how on the nose it might be. Joiner of the Sea. Pioneering Spirit, Geologist, Tree Guard. CW, do you draft by this list or something? Why do I feel like I always see you with a few of these every game? Fisherman's Friend, Potato Planter. Did I miss a game? Is that what happened here? Feels like I did. Yep, sure did. Took some sub 200 out of my queue. I'm not gonna complain. Good luck, Gonzo. Alright, what's the least fun card by CW's metric. Whoops. Field Watchman and Childless. Very negative fun. Teacher's Desk, low fun. The arena matchmaking just considers tier. Arena tier. That was actually a problem in Wingspan last season. Wingspan had something like 4,000 players, but only 3 tiers. And... Or maybe 4 last season. But there were some people who made it to Wingspan Elite who were 130 elo. And they would be a great match. Yeah, if there's enough players in an arena league, it needs to have enough tiers. You do agree with your own metric that these are boring cards. Pet Lover? Boring. Collector? Boring. Oh, but there's Loudmouth here, Gray, so it's not all that. Loudmouth, boring. Bois and Thrall think Loudmouth is fun, though. You bet if you go feed the cats. Oh, thanks, Grumbleguts. I appreciate that. I guess it's still fun looking at these stats, though. So I guess while we're waiting, I can field more stats questions than I expected, or maybe I should have gone into the queue sooner. A card that gives you 1 food can never be fun. Fair enough. What else rates as boring in CW World? Fish Farmer? Boring. Cattle Whisperer? Boring. Yeah, again, I think yours and Thrall's need to be aligned with something other than power, or at least scale it differently. It's been too long. What's the best transformation on one of those things that we could do? Oh yeah, yours is H over K. But that is pretty correlated with power. Gonzo's is the most straightforward. It was so straightforward, I didn't need to type it in. Oh, wow, Gonzo. Good one. Yeah, we could run a regression model and just take the largest vertical differences, like in other words, the highest single SSEs. Or not SSEs, just squared errors. Can we do that? Sure, we have time. Apparently. So what does this say? ADP is, on average, negative 0.631 times power plus 6.68. Yeah, Grumbleguts didn't work, but valiant effort. Alright, I'm actually gonna... Well, I guess I'll just move this off to the side. So this is predicted, and then this is square different, or I guess we can just do diff. Equals E2 minus S2. Yay, machine learning, we did it. Feed pellets, store of experience. I guess there's some passing cards here. So these are cards that aren't drafted early enough? Possibly. This is interesting. Farm building? How is farm building an average card? Potato Harvester does get its day in the sun. Not all is lost for the potato fans. Let's reverse this. Not really surprised to see bookcase or beer table. Beer table, I guess I am a little... not really. Beer table's a weird one, because you kind of need to draft it early, but you also can't necessarily expect too much out of it. Is that paradoxical? Maybe. Cottager overdrafted, bookcase overdrafted, dwelling mound overdrafted, but some of these I wouldn't have expected. I know I overdraft Potter Ceramics, I know people probably overdraft Excavator a little, but can you blame them? Like, there's some really swing for the fences kind of things. Storehouse Keeper doesn't surprise me, I'm not a big fan of it in this set. Wood Barterer, a little surprising. Sleeping Corner, a little surprising, but I mean, not the most surprising thing. Private Teacher, not super surprising. Dwelling Mound overdrafted, and its average draft, well, if we just go by its power, it should be drafted 6.5 on average, but it's drafted 5.25 on average. Yeah, it's that bad. Oh, High Mountain Bay, great call. I did not talk about Sculpture Course. Cultivator, yeah, overdrafted somehow. I'm going to call that a skill issue for everyone else. Let's look at Sculpture Course, because we definitely didn't. Where is that thing? Whoa! Overall list, it's only a tiny bit above average. And then it's somewhat above average here, 500 something total. Elo per play is good. Its play rate is a little low. Not really. Huh. I guess it might have a bit of a playability issue. Some people might not be as willing to play it. Most players aren't amazing at dealing with the lack of stone. Possibly, Gonzo. Hello, Sivir. It's possible Sculpture Course is a high variance card. Yeah. but this is interesting. Good call on looking at that. We have talked about it before. Yeah, there's so much fascinating stuff here if you look at it long enough. I still don't understand Pet Lover. The formula on Pred for 500 plus at 200 is negative 0.631 times power plus 6.68. You think for ultra strong? Well, supposedly this should include most of the ultra strong. Like, the average elo for this set is like 560, 570. Ale benches we haven't looked at. Ale benches is below average here, noticeably. 380 out of 500 and 3. And then here it's 372, also quite bad. Yeah, I've never liked ale benches that much. It's a big drop-off from beer table. Right. You have to be... When you play Sculpture Course, you have to have ceiling that isn't made of stone or extra stone support. Or you can hope that 44 wins the game. One of those options. Room parts not so much? Oh no. Pet Lover is a very free grain source for players who can't feed properly. Well, the problem is, Sivir, Pet Lover's also high ranked in the 500 plus set. Like, I tried to find an excuse and I couldn't. Whiskey Distiller bad? Yeah, apparently. This is the overall list right now. Whiskey Distiller under Oven Boy. Rough. Soil Scientist? Okay, I like it, but that doesn't mean I think it's good. Okay, let's be clear. When I say I like it, that means I would ideally rate it pretty fun. It's slightly connected to how good it is, but that's not the whole story. Where's my fun? I haven't made a fun formula. I'd have to think about it. Plowman, good question. Plowman is top third, a tiny bit under the top third line in that one. And a bit above the top third line in this one. The formula's in my heart, exactly. It's something I cannot transcribe. Garden Head Official feels so bad for the person who played it. They're never the ones to get the points. Is Gardening Head Official? Gardening Head Official in the 500 plus is rated 59th. And 87th overall. Yeah, it shows you what a 4 wood card can do if you distract people with 2 points to chase. Family-friendly home. I think it shows up as pretty good. Yeah, overall 33rd. 64th in this one. I have started drafting it higher too, along with the little stick. Haydryer only just above Garden Head. I think maybe the more surprising thing for you and others, Dr. Bois, would be the strength of just having a 4 wood action that might give you points and gives your opponents a chance to chase shadows. Yeah, or it could be just correlated with playing it when you have a lot of veggies too. Haydryer, hard to get right in your opinion. Interesting. Elo per play of the 4 wood ox. Good question. So let's start with this one. Elo per play is 1.85 on Gardening Head Official. 2.26 on House Steward. 2.23 on Constable. 2.08 on Animal Activist. Animal Reeve is 2.54. I think I might be missing one. House Steward, Constable, Animal Reeve, Animal Activist, Garden Head Official. Drudgery Reeve is not implemented, and I think there's one more I'm forgetting. And I'm not looking at chat, because it's personal challenge to remember it myself. Okay, fine, I'm giving up. Provost! Provost. Tree Guard. Ranch Provost, 0.12, by far the lowest. Oh wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong column. Never mind, 1.42. We need an Oct that does nothing as a control. That's a funny idea, CW. If game design needed that statistic, I agree. Should I reset this one more time? Sure. Last reset. Collector, Kipo. Provost is the hardest to control in the draft. I think I agree. Yeah, and it makes sense that Provost and Gardening Head Official are the hardest to control. I think that makes sense. We do have a control that does nothing. It's called Loudmouth. Great. I think you noticed that Catcher was even lower, right? Is Night School Student better at lower rated tables? That's a great question. It is not. It's 132nd at the higher rated tables and 164th at the lower ones. There are multiple controls, fair. If you don't have fence disasters, it tends to be the player who fences last wins Provost. It can be that, yeah. Because it's still better to avoid a fence disaster than to win Provost. You'd be shocked. Well, here we have it, Sivir. Hello, Silver. We need a wins above Sequestrator aggregate stat. Infinity % for all of them. Weaker tables play fewer Ox. I mean, maybe, or maybe they're over-aggressive on blocking it. You know, I think you could make a qualitative argument either way. I don't have power for majors. Sadly. Weaker tables are less likely to draft good free Ox. You last pick Sequestrator often just to see if it's finally time to play it one day, probably only with Teacher's Desk. Interesting. Wait, is Loudmouth oh, I guess by what I said, that is true, Dr. Bois. I did say that Loudmouth is infinity % better than Sequestrator. Awkward. Who needs stats to tell you clear eyes, full joinery, can't lose? Exactly, Gonzo. Yo! M. Peebles, thanks so much for the raid. Welcome, y'all. I'm typing garbage. Now I'm typing the right thing. Shout out M. Peebles. Thanks again so much for that raid. Playing board games. What exactly were y'all doing? Over here, I'm waiting for an Agricola cube, but reviewing the latest Agricola stats that I just dropped yesterday, which is pretty cool. Night School gives you free Ox as a draft thing. Oh, you'll play it if it's free, I guess. Beer Table is not amazing, it turns out. Like, it's good. But in the 500 plus list, it's 98th. And 91st in the overall list. Hey, Slovakia Steph, you were mostly distracting. That's always fun, too. Beer Keg is higher than Beer Table, in I think both the lists. On your spreadsheet, Greengrocer... Yes, Greengrocer is different than Greengrocer. One of the sadder issues with card naming. It's not quite as bad as Market Stall and Market Stall, but... yeah. Yeah, Schmog, I mean, I don't know if you were here for my opening rant. But it's highlighted. You like Keg more than Table? The food is non-trivial? I kind of agree, Ace Spade, because, yeah, with Beer Table you have to have everything sorted. Enough grain and enough food in order to throw away the grain away. Yeah, Schmog, this is by far my standout observation. Other people might be more surprised at the 500 plus number 2 being education bonus. I'm equally surprised that about Forest Review are topping this list, but other people aren't. Charky is pretty high CW, I agree. Am I surprised about the relatively wide distribution about number of plays? No. Number of deals? No. No, I think this is within the bounds of random fluctuation. I'd be really surprised if it wasn't. I'm not motivated to run a random checker on that, but if you want to check if the histogram of deals matches a normal distribution, you're welcome to, for sure. The timing for Keg is way better? Yeah. Table timing is awkward. You had the wildest grain game of your life, but ran into JA's 2 hardware store. That's a bummer. Good junior artist combos are really tough to beat. Freemason, mid at best, but that's significantly below the halfway point. and significantly below the halfway point. Okay, Sivir, so you are on my side that it's good, but it's crazy that it's this high. Ed bonus permaband. Rhett Carpenter is pretty high, but I'm not too surprised. It allows for some good tactics. 12-point beer keg and lost by 12. Oof. That's a statement. Brindlin, I shared everything on this BGA thread. Which is pretty easily transcribable to a spreadsheet. Yeah. Anything too powerful? Not really, Merrick. So that's a really cool observation from this too, is that there was some fear on my end, and probably many other people too, that Teacher's Desk would be really high here, like begging student level, but it's not. It's in line with Childless and Lover. We have to take the Braggart Big Country Caravan stuff with a big grain of salt because of the low sample size, the fact that they are played with the other band cards as well. They would probably move up quite a bit if they were the only ones introduced back into the set. Still searching in the arena queue, but we have great backup plans here to keep talking about stats. 10 read as a first action is pretty good, yes, and I think that's what we have to all start realizing. Credit wins by round played. Are you not talking about the card credit, CW? Am I able to add the definitions for some of the columns? They should be loosely defined in the thread, if I'm not mistaken. But if you need more definition, I can try to write one up. Steamplow is a wild outlier, shows up a full deviation away from the number 2 most dealt card. Really? Well, I mean, in a normal distribution, you are going to get deviations. As long as there are the expected number of deviations, it would still be fine. I guess I can just do this. Alright. Let's make a histogram. Why not? Cultivator? Cultivator's good, but it's not... Well, I guess I don't quite remember. In the 500 plus... well, no, we were looking at a bunch of different angles earlier. Let's just re-look at it. Cultivator 37th in the overall list, and... yeah, this is a little lower, 70th. Yeah. Good try, Merrick. Collector's also 26th in the... hey, we have a game in the highest rate. Okay, so no histogram of deals. We actually